Welcome back to Diligent Canine, and in this Q&A video I'm going to talk about what type of dog you should get. And obviously this is something that you should think long and hard about before you bring a dog into your home. So the short answer is a dog that will be happy in your life. Note that I did not say that the other way around. I didn't say a dog that will make your life happy. I said a dog that will be happy in your life. And the reason for that is that obviously bringing a dog into your home and into your life is a highly personal choice. However, it's also a selfish choice, and that's important to remember, that it is something that we do, whether that is adopting a rescue or bringing in a stray or fostering or buying from a breeder. It is something that we do to benefit our lives. No animal chooses you. I don't believe people who anthropomorphize a dog's feelings like that. I think that ultimately the choice to bring that animal into your home, whether you walked into the shelter, you called the breeder, you decided to feed the stray, what have you, that was your choice. It is something that you did. And I say all that to remind everyone that being selfish is okay. It's great. We all know that dogs are awesome, and your life may well be better with a dog. However, it's important to remember that you are making a selfish choice here. So you don't want that selfish choice to be harmful to the dog. You want to be fair to the dog. So when you're considering what dog to purchase or to adopt, as far as breed generalizations go, you want to pick a dog that will be happy in your life. Before we go into any specific details or criteria, it's probably a good idea to mention that you should stay away from online quizzes, especially the personality type quizzes. Those are mostly just for fun, and I think it's important for people to not be disillusioned and think they're anything more than they are. There are several pet food companies that have a what dog should I get, or what type of dog should I get quizzes, and if you really have absolutely no idea what kind of dog, what kind of breed you're looking for, then that can be a good place to start. But it's important to remember to take those exactly as what they are. They're really, really basic guidelines. And I'm going to go over some of the details that might come up on those quizzes, but that you also want to think about as they pertain in a little more detail to your life, and weight some of these details as to how important each of them are to you. The first thing to think about would be your expectations for the dog. What does the daily life of the dog look like? What is it that you want to do with the dog and that you want the dog to do with you? So maybe you just want a couch potato buddy to watch movies with, or to hang out with other dogs with. Your friends have dogs and you want a canine companion of your own. And you want a dog that is content to be a cuddle buddy. Or you might be someone who is wanting to get into dog sports, be that protection sports or agility, obedience, anything like that. And in those cases, you're going to want two very different types of dogs. With that, you also want to consider your activity level and the dog's exercise and activity requirements. Some dogs need a lot of exercise. They're just active breeds. They are bred to chase down quail through a pond. They are bred to run, chase, and bite things. They're bred to kill vermin. Those would be your terriers, not just pit bulls either, by the way. So it's important to consider your expectations and what the dog's breed is bred for. Again, we're talking about generalizations here, and obviously any individual dog could vary anywhere from a small margin to quite a large margin. But as far as breed generalities go, this is what we're talking about in this video. Branching off of exercise and activity requirements, another thing to consider is, what does your living space look like? So if you're in an apartment that's barely bigger than a closet, a 70, 80, 90, 100-pound dog is not going to be very happy in that living environment, especially if you don't have readily available access to a large outdoor space. So in this example, if you're in like some closet sized urban apartment in a huge cityscape with not a lot of running space for the dog, a large active dog would be a terrible choice for you, no matter how strong and majestic you think that dog is. On the other hand, some dogs are physically smaller and physically don't need as much space. Also, their breeds and temperaments might be such that they just don't have the drive or the energy. They like to play, they'll play a little bit, you can train them a little bit, but they simply don't have the intrinsic motivation, or as we call it, drive, to continue working and maintain that high state of energy. So they don't need a lot of space to run and jump and play and do things. While we're talking about living spaces, you want to also think about who or what else is living in your home. So if you have other dogs, other cats, some breeds, again, obviously an individual dog's temperament could vary quite differently, but some breeds are going to be very protective of their humans. Some breeds are going to want to isolate, and some won't want to be best friends with other animals or even other children, other humans in a home. Now, there is some that you can do as the owner of the dog, as the trainer of the dog, and you should do these things to establish a pack order and structure in your home. But that said, this doesn't mean it's something that you should ignore when you're considering the home that you're bringing the dog into. Remember, you are the one that's choosing to bring this dog into your home. The dog isn't forcing its way in to live amongst you. You are bringing it in, so you are responsible for the consequences of what happens thereafter. You also want to consider allergens, and while we're talking about allergens, that is dogs that shed a lot or have a lot of dander, what are the grooming requirements of the dogs? Some dogs require a lot of maintenance as far as like shedding. All dogs will need their nails trimmed and their teeth brushed at least somewhat regularly. And that looks different for different dogs. Some dogs you might be able to groom once a week. Others you might need to do it a couple times a day, especially during like a seasonal shed. Another thing to consider is the physicality of the dog itself. Those are things like its age, maturity, size, and you want to think about that. It is not a good idea, in my opinion, to get a larger dog than you can physically control yourself. Remember that until you train the dog to be obedient to you, it is your job to still manage that dog's behavior, which may mean physically restraining or stopping the dog from doing something that it wants to do that you know with your human brain might cause danger to another dog or another human or your dog or you. So while we're talking about maturity and the dog's physicality, you should remember that puppies and senior dogs might take a lot of work. A senior dog might have some serious health issues that come with extra costs. A puppy takes a lot of work because it knows nothing yet and it wants to explore the world. So again, you have got your work cut out for you trying to manage every minute of that dog's life. Another note with large dogs is that large dogs take more food. They simply need to eat more, especially if you have a large and an active dog, you will need to feed it more. So that's something to consider when you're talking about the quote-unquote hidden costs of a dog. You want to consider how much you're going to have to spend to feed the dog, and again with larger dogs, the larger crates, larger leashes, larger toys, they tend to be more expensive, and the dog eats more, and it goes through food more often, and they tend to be a little more destructive to those toys. All of those things that I've mentioned need to sort of be weighed against your experience with dogs and training dogs. So even if you have lived with dogs for 20 years of your life, that doesn't necessarily mean you want to jump in to a really high drive, really energetic, big dog if you're not ready for it. If you don't have the physical living space, or the other people or animals in your home for whatever reason aren't ready for that animal to be brought into your home as well. So I'll give you an example. When I got my dog Dean, it was the first dog that I gotten as an adult, And I am continually reminded how glad I am that I got a much softer tempered dog than what I thought I wanted when I knew absolutely nothing. So what I mean by that is I've made mistakes as a trainer and a dog owner, and fortunately my dog Dean has been rather forgiving. Whereas if I'd gotten the really hard, tough dog that I at least thought I wanted before I did get a dog, I would have frankly had a lot more stitches, and the dog probably would have been back in a shelter or put down by me or someone else. So you want to weigh all these considerations against your experience and how much you're willing and how much you're able to learn as a dog owner, handler, and trainer. So you might be really willing to learn, but if you don't have the resources available or the time to practice and to learn, you're going to have a really tough time. The last thing I want to say to try to conclude is to remind everyone that these are just general breed observations. I'll do some videos later on some different types of temperament tests. I will link to this video, the C-bar temperament test. And again, there are lots of things you can do to sort of like generalize breeds and try to find out which one is right for you. But you've got to not lose sight of the forest for the trees, and or rather the trees for the forest, and remember to assess each individual dog's temperament and personality. But that will be for another video. Thank you for watching Diligent Canine, and remember to support military and working dogs by subscribing on Patreon. Remain diligent.